going to be reading a short section of the short story, The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell. And for those of you who haven't read this short story, it's basically about a Hunger Games type situation that's very one-sided, or a cat and mouse game between the protagonist Rainsford and the sadistic General Zara. As I read, be sure to notice how the sentence structure kind of changes from being more complex to more simplified and concise to reflect the train of thought, experiences, and the general anxiety that Rainsford has. At daybreak, Rainsford, lying near the swamp, was awakened by a sound that made him know that he had new things to learn about fear. It was a distant sound, faint and wavering, but he knew it. It was the baying of a pack of hounds. Rainsford knew he could do one of two things. He could stay where he was and wait. That was suicide. He could flee. That was postponing the inevitable. For a moment, he stood there, thinking. An idea that held a wild chance came to him, and tightening his belt, he headed away from the swamp. The baying of the hounds drew nearer, then nearer, nearer, even nearer. On a ridge, Rainsford climbed a tree. Down a watercourse, down a quarter of a mile away, he could see the bush moving. Straining his eyes, he saw the lean figure of General Zara just ahead of him. Rainsford made out another figure, whose wide shoulders surged through the tall jungle weeds. It was the giant Ivan, and he seemed pulled forward by some unseen force. Rainsford knew that Ivan must be holding the pack in leash. It would be on him any minute now. His mind worked frantically. He thought of a native trick he had learned in Uganda. He slid down the tree. He caught hold of a springy young sapling, and to it he fastened his hunting knife, with a blade pointing down the trail. With a bit of wild grapevine, he tied back the sapling. Then he ran for his life. The hounds raised their voices as they hit a fresh scent. Rainsford knew now how an animal at bay feels. He had to stop to get his breath. The baying of the hounds stopped abruptly, and Rainsford's heart stopped too. They must have reached the knife. He shinnied up a tree excitedly and looked back. His pursuers had stopped. The hope was in Rainsford's brain when he died, for he saw in the shallow valley that General Zaroff was still on his feet, but Ivan wasn't. The knife, driven by the recoil of the springing tree, had not wholly failed. Rainsford had hardly tumbled to the ground when the pack took up the cry again. Nerve, 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 he panted as he dashed along. A blue gap showed between the trees, dead ahead. Ever nearer drew the towns. Rainsford forced himself on toward the gap. He reached it. It was the shore of the sea. Across a cove, he could see the gloomy gray stone of the chateau, 20 feet below him. The sea rumbled and hissed. Rainsford hesitated. He heard the hounds. Then he leaped far out